Here we are on Fontana Lake in the Great Smoky Mountains. And about 100 feet from where we are floating right now is a 480-foot drop into the Little Tennessee River. This is the Fontana Dam. It is the tallest dam east of the Mississippi, and we are here today looking for a ghost town. You may be asking yourself, why are they in the Smoky Mountains looking for a ghost town? You usually think of the Wild West frontier, abandoned gold and silver mines, the tumbleweeds crossing roads kind of thing. But most people don't realize we have them here on the East Coast as well. And up until 1943, this lake was non-existent. It was a steep valley with a few small towns and the Little Tennessee River flowing through it. And that's where we're headed today, to one of these small towns. So in 1820, Moses and Patience Proctor took an undeeded claim to this area we're headed to and established the town of Proctor. Industries like mining and logging made their way into this area for a while and grew these small towns. There was a general store, a baseball team, a community theater, but by the 1920s they'd resorted back to agriculture. Then, December 7th, 1941 happened.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
The U.S. government quickly needed more electricity for aluminum production to manufacture military aircraft. What was the solution? Hydroelectric dams. So now we introduce Alcoa, the Aluminum Company of America. They were already in this little Tennessee Valley region and had established 3 hydroelectric dams for aluminum production. They had purchased the initial property for this Fontana Dam, but another company wanted to control the building of Fontana Dam, and that was the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. They're a government-owned electric company that was created after the Great Depression for various reasons.
To help them control the water on their land and restore the fertility of the soil. To reforest millions of acres on the ravaged hillsides. To use the electric power generated by the dams to develop and rehabilitate industry in the cities.
The important thing to note is that TVA was authorized to use eminent domain, meaning they could take private property for public use while requiring compensation to be given to the owner. In short, if they wanted the property you were living on, they could kick you out. They'll give you money, but you have to leave. So now the TVA and Alcoa had this agreement over this building of the dam, and they ended up getting U.S. Congress authorized funding on December 17th, 1941, just 10 days after Pearl Harbor, and construction of Fontana Dam began 3 weeks later. They had to purchase 68,000 acres of land, and as we've established, there were small towns in this area. Now remember, Tennessee Valley Authority had eminent domain, so all the land that they purchased that was inhabited by families, those families had to be relocated. The term relocation is a bit misleading in this context because there was no assistance for the actual relocation process.
Many of them didn't have automobiles, they didn't have trucks to move their belongings. What they did have is young men in the military getting killed. So they got off of their property, many of them in a matter of days.
There was no assistance in moving the homes, the belongings, or the families, just compensation for the property itself.
Don't you know they thought the government just comes along every 10 years and makes us move?
So let's go explore the remains of Proctor.
Welcome back to Candy Adventures. I'm Chris.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we just got through with a 45-minute boat ride. Really beautiful. Saw a lot of bald eagles and just showed you guys that dam. For the Halloween season, we wanted to do something fun and a little bit spooky. And this place is spooky for 3 reasons. One, it's spooky because at a moment's notice, big government can take everything away from you.
And you have the choice to either get paid to leave or forced out.
Number 2, it's spooky because this is the site of a ghost town. And, you know, all the things that entails and, you know, spooky eeriness of the fall. It's fall season here. And spooky reason number 3 is because history is kind of repeating itself. Right now, the US and Russia kind of amping up war talks, and this lake was built and this town was made into a ghost town because of World War II. And now we're kind of tickling on the edge of World War III with the destruction of that natural gas pipeline and everything that's going on. So 3 spooky reasons, and we're going to go show you this old ghost town. So come on. And the 4th spooky thing going on here today, as you can see where we just set the anchor down, is bear tracks. These are bear tracks all over the beach here where we just landed to go check out this old ghost town. So that's pretty cool. Spooky, but cool.
There's also hare and bird tracks, but nobody cares about birds, so.
No, just the bear tracks. That's definitely the coolest.
Look at the little back feet, they're so cute. I love that they have like little heels, claw marks, little back foot, little front foot. They're like little people feet. Look how tiny this one is. It's so cute. It's only this big. Got some cubs. Very cute.
So one of the reasons we wanted to cover this place is we're kind of stuck in North Carolina for a little while, and we had some plans to go do some like ghost towns and some stuff like that out west. Well, there's actually a ghost town here on the East Coast, and a lot of people don't know that. And it was created back in the 40s. This was a valley. Of course, almost all lakes in North America and really all over the world, most of them are man-made, and this is no exception. This is built for hydroelectricity, and it was built in support of the war effort for World War II. But before that, there was a town up here called Proctor, and it was up here to for the timber industry.
And then that kind of died out, and people still stuck around in the town for agriculture purposes. But people were still in this area up into the like 1940s.
And this was a really isolated area back before paved roads, back before there was a good way to get back here. These people were really separated, and might have even been some Melungeons back in here, but that'll be something for a different video. So in support of the war effort, Alcoa Aluminum Company of America used to control this area, and then they got together with the Tennessee Valley Authority, the TVA, and decided we're going to plug up a valley and create a lake, and the lake will produce hydroelectricity. And that hydroelectricity is so important for the Aluminum Company of America, so they could build fighter planes for World War II.
And what a lot of people don't know is that not only did this dam power the aluminum production, but it also powered the Manhattan Project in Oak Ridge.
The Manhattan Project brought thousands of people to Oak Ridge in just a few years. There, more than 20,000 workers took uranium from K-25 and other facilities and used calutrons to separate and capture uranium isotopes, which fueled the first atomic bomb.
Yeah, Oak Ridge is downstream of this chain of lakes in the TVA. And so this is very historically significant for World War II. And the only way to access this area, this is actually the most roadless area on the East Coast. So as far as remote areas go,
this is about as remote as it gets.
Yep, east of the Rockies, this is about as away from people as you're gonna get. The only way in here is by boat or by walking. You can either walk a whole long way on a trail, or you can come in by boat. Because this, all that we're in right now, is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Where we actually launched the boat was not. That's why we're flying the drone and doing that kind of stuff. But we're right now, currently, this is all Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So this beautiful river down here, this is called Hazel Creek. And this is one of the original tributaries that filled up this valley when they flooded it back in the 40s.
It is supposed to be phenomenal for trout fishing as well.
And as long as you got your fishing license from either North Carolina or Tennessee, you're good to fish in here. And
Tennessee applies here too?
Yep, North Carolina or Tennessee fishing license work in here. So this is a really pretty place if you ever want to come back and not chase ghost stories. But almost stepped in some bear poop there. It's all over. So it's a really pretty place that maybe you're not just interested in the spooky ghost story and World War II history and history of governments kicking people out of their place. It's a neat place just to come trout fish. When they kicked the people out, they either had the option we'll buy you out or we'll kick you out. And of course, a lot of people didn't want to get left. So the government says, okay, no big deal. We'll kick you out, but when the war effort's over and we don't need this anymore, we'll build you a road in here. And we'll build you a road so you can get back home, you can get back to the cemeteries that are up here, and everything will be fine. And lo and behold, I know this doesn't happen much, but the Big Daddy government lied to the people, and that road still hasn't been built. I think $54 million was appropriated, but they can't ever seem to get a vote on it. So there's still no road here, which in a funny way, I'm glad that a road doesn't exist here now, because it makes it so wild. The East Coast doesn't have hardly any country left that's wild anymore. But at the same time, for those people who that was taken from, that's a horrible thing. You promise that you'll have access to get back home someday, and nope, the government takes your land, tells you they'll build you a road to get back to it. They don't do that either. And then it's very sad.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, I'm kind of happy that there's a roadless area this big in the United States.
A lot of the town is underwater. They anticipated the water levels coming up from the dam, so they had to remove a lot of the homes that were in the area. They had to cut down a lot of the trees that were going to be the anticipated water bank, and they were said to have removed graves that were going to be underwater. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but there are still grave sites left above the water line that people did want access to. There's supposed to be a lot of child graves because of the Spanish influenza came through. So, you know, there's a lot of lineage, people wanting to visit passed away loved ones and see their headstones, but now they don't have access.
All right, so we've got a black bear up here watching us in the woods. Probably not going to see it on the GoPro though. This would be a good time to mention that we have a Patreon and sell merch if anybody's interested in joining up the Patreon, so that we can afford a camera with a zoom lens for just such the occasion. All right, we didn't get the bear on camera, but we did see one.
It was pretty close.
And it was pretty close, yeah. He's still right there, but you can't see anything on a GoPro. All right, maybe he'll pop back out later. So we made it up here to one of the last remaining structures that still fully stands. A lot of the buildings, it's just the foundations that are still there, or you can find some remnants of some old machinery. But we're going to cross this bridge and cross beautiful Hazel Creek here and keep our eyes peeled to see if we see another bear, because we'd love to get that on camera, and go check out this old building that does still exist, that was a functional town up until 1944, and then just right back to Mother Nature. So we're going to check this out and see if maybe we can see a ghost. We're gonna go look in this old house that's been abandoned for 70 years.
78, yeah. Oh, look how short the ceilings are. That's so short. People that are, I don't know, like 6'5", 7".
Super narrow doorways, short, very creepy, very spooky, but very cool.
That's cool. Wonder if this was actually left in here.
I assume so.
The stove.
Looks like that's a wood-fired stove.
It's very cool.
At least I think it is.
I think so.
I like the green and white
Trim.
paint colors, yeah. Very cool. It's all actual wood. You know, nowadays this would all be vinyl siding or some sort of fake facade, but seeing all this real wood, and none of this wood's pressure treated or anything like that, and it's still existing with a good heavy coat of paint on it. Very cool. You can see the old stone foundation down here. That's super creepy. Really cool old construction though. I love the stone foundation that it sits on. You can see these really old oak trees over here too, how big they are. They must have been spared when they were first logging the area to keep some shade.
I wonder why they put windows over here.
Don't know. Very neat construction though. This lake also I find fascinating has steelhead, which is just a name for big water rainbow trout that spend most of their time either in the ocean or a big lake, and then they run up the creeks to spawn. And I find it fascinating that you don't think about there being steelhead down here in the southeast, but in this lake there is rainbow trout, which of course were introduced from California way back, 100 years ago, and they live in the lake, and then about this time of year they'll run up and spawn in these rivers. And I was hoping maybe we would see some of that, but not today. But just a fascinating part of the world here where it's still pretty untouched. They've got elk back in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and there's steelhead, and it's just a kind of unique place in the southeast here. Because we're going somewhere with water, I have brought my new favorite fishing poles, this little $25 Eagle pole. And the rules up here, it's single hook artificial. So I've got everything here is single hook, but you can't come up to some beautiful place like this and not at least cast a little bit. So in Candy Adventure style, I'm gonna just at least take a couple casts. It didn't get huge, but it gets big enough to get the job done on these smaller creeks. I don't know if y'all can hear that on camera or not, but we can hear it plain as day as there's a ruffed grouse up there beating on the hill. So that's just always fun to hear that. If you never heard it before, it sounds like you're having a panic attack. It sounds like a heartbeat in your ears when they're beating on their chest.
It's such a low drum sound.
And it's crazy that such a small bird makes that sound that carries so well, but it's just really neat to be up here in a roadless area. Even if we don't catch a fish or see a ghost or get that bear on video, just to hear the animals around you and not hear any people for a while. So I think we're going to go ahead and head up the river a little bit and see if we can find some more remnants of another building and maybe get a peep at a ghost. Across the creek right here from us. He don't even care we're here. He's just eating plants on the side of the river. So cool. You can see how close he is, just across the river right here. Of course, Elizabeth here. We're not going to get any closer than this. He's just doing his thing and we're doing ours. Very special. I love every time I see a bear in the woods. Black bear is one of my favorite animals. They're so adaptable. They can live in such high population densities. They can live right alongside people. Eat just about anything. Hopefully you guys can see good enough out of this 3x zoom. Just a beautiful jet black animal over there. All right, we're gonna keep exploring, let this bear go back to eating whatever kind of plants he's enjoying to eating here.
After more exploring, we've found this campground. So this is a hike-in only campground. There's no roads to this, and it's not really a campground. It's just a very open camp spot. And you have to hike a pretty long distance to get here, or you boat in. And it's part of an established trail system already, but you can stay in this town, in this old town of Proctor, and camp overnight.
Because it's a national park, you do have to stay in the designated sites. If you're interested, I think this is site 86, but we can double check that before the video goes up. And all these designated sites, I think you have to reserve them. I'm not 100% sure in different seasons, but I think you might have to reserve them. But they all have these included, these, of course you've seen the bears and the bear prints, and there's a lot of bears. They all have these bear cable systems to where you can put your food up in the trees. So that's all these backcountry sites all have this, because the bears can be a little bit problematic in the Great Smoky Mountains just because there's so many. They're going to want to come check out your food, poke around, if you smell like you got a lot of food on you. So it's always a good idea to throw your stuff up on these. In fact, I think it's mandated you stay in the national park, that you keep your food in a bear safe container up in the trees here. So if you've been watching the channel for a few years, you know that we used to live in Seattle. And I'm having a lot of flashbacks of our 6 or 8 months that we spent in Seattle, because the ground is just littered with feces from bear feces, except in Seattle it's human feces. But it's very similar to walking around Seattle, where you're always looking down and hoping that you don't step in all the feces. But we found this cool stone chimney. We're gonna go check it out and see if it's haunted. Down this old stone wall here, probably been here for over 100 years. Really cool old chimney. I don't know if this was a home or what this was. There used to be a movie theater even here, which was a real novelty way back in Appalachia. You know, way back in the Appalachian Mountains, you know, 100 years ago, to have a movie theater. Movie theater was a novelty anywhere in the world, but they did used to have a small movie theater back here. And I like to think that this was to keep the people warm while they waited, but I don't think this was from the movie theater. But
There are even a couple of stories that people that had homes here were already deployed during the war and came back to no home, you know, and this whole town has been flooded and they can't access it. And what do you do now? Because they weren't here when the government was offering money to give you money to buy the property. So you just come back and there's nothing left.
so this is the second time we filmed in a graveyard. The first time was in the outskirts of Seattle, where we filmed
Starvation Heights.
Yep, where the lady used to starve people to death and then swap corpses for other corpses. Really weird. This is not a morose, creepy cemetery. This is just regular people who passed away up here, and then they had their families cut off from them when they filled this up. So we'll come up here and pay our respects. And it's spooky because of Halloween, but I don't think anybody's up here is going to haunt us today. I think the bear is the only thing that's haunting us today, which I like. So
They're welcome.
let's check out this old cemetery and kind of let these people know that they're not forgotten up here, that the lake got filled in and their houses got taken away, but they didn't get forgotten up here. There's some very old cemetery headstones up here too, so we're gonna check this out a little, pay us respects.
They offer families to come across and ferry across once a year, and you know, the number of people coming is dwindling as people get older and older and more detached from their ancestry. But it's always an option for people that have relatives that are buried here, that you can take a ferry across once a year to come visit the headstones and the graves of their loved ones.
But you can see some of these stones are very close together.
Yeah.
And that makes me very sad, and they're just stone because 100 years ago, 150 years ago, it was very difficult to get a headstone and very expensive. So a lot of these you just see, they're just a rock, and they're very close together, which makes me very sad and think that they might be children's graves from the Spanish flu.
April 1936 to July 1936.
That's very sad. So that's after the great Spanish influenza outbreak, but it still could have been that same disease, but very sad. You can only think what's going through your head, and you're somewhere so remote, probably hard to get medical care, and all you can afford to do is put a stone headstone up with no inscription on it and an infant. Very heartbreaking, but it lets you know how hard things were in the Appalachian Mountains, you know, 100, 150 years ago. It was hard if you were Cherokee, it was hard if you were white, it was hard if you were Melungeon. Everybody kind of got a raw deal
Just out in the middle
in their own ways out here. That's crazy. All the way up here, it's a Confederate headstone, born 1833, died 1916.
Really?
Now,
Wow.
of course, that's long after the Confederate War, or the Revolutionary War, but still neat to see old pieces of history like this way up here. Moses and Patience Proctor, 1801 to 1870.
The first settlers on Hazel Creek.
(1794 to 1864).
The original headstones are rocks too.
I mean, that's about as old of a headstone as I've seen here in America. Now, if you're watching from outside the United States, you're in Europe somewhere, you're going to see older headstones, of course, but 1794 to 1864. I would have loved to have seen this area that far ago. Or I would have loved to have seen this area that long ago.
I mean, it would just be like a whole different way of life, different society. There's a lot here. This is much bigger than I thought. That makes it sadder. Like, this wasn't just a small gathering of like 100 people. I mean, it was supposed to be about 1,000 people that lived here at the time that they were basically evicted from their homes and their land, and they just had to leave all this behind.
I think there's more cemeteries back here, and I think some of the bodies they exhumed and took outside of the park. But it's still nice to see that there's still some American flags stuck up on some of these. There's still flowers being put up here. You know, you can tell that they're keeping it mowed back and not letting nature completely take it over. So it's nice to see this, the respects are still being paid. I guess that's the National Park Service. I don't know if that's a private entity that takes care of this cemetery, but fascinating to walk through a piece of history that's up here for some really profound reasons. I mean, they filled this lake up in a war effort to fight the biggest war that humanity's ever known. So it's a really, you kind of see some of the smaller parts of World War II. It wasn't just bombs dropping in Normandy Beach. It was the civilians at home that were getting their homes taken, and you know, all the sacrifices I think everybody was making for World War II. And it really makes you kind of think about a possible World War III, as all the big armies are, you know, flexing on each other and destroying and destroying natural gas pipelines under the ocean, and just kind of puts it all into perspective to be here 70 years later, and we're inching our way towards a similar situation, which hopefully doesn't happen ever again. So you can see it's starting to get dark. We still have a 45-minute long boat ride and then an hour-and-a-half car ride to get back to the house. But we thoroughly enjoyed the video today. I know, of course, we didn't get any fish on the line, but we did see bears. We saw an abandoned town. We saw the highest dam east of the Mississippi.
Yep, and we felt a rough grouse, the call, which is cool. I've never felt that before, but it really does feel like a drum in your chest. Super neat, and it's a super ominous kind of sound out in the woods too. Yeah. But now we're gonna navigate our way back through the bear poop, let these people be at peace for the rest of the evening, and we're gonna get back on the boat, have a nice boat ride home. And if you guys have any video ideas you wanna see, please let us know. We're kind of stuck in one area right now. We had to take up jobs again. We keep trying to do YouTube full time. We run out of cash real quick. Yep. But if you enjoyed this kind of video, or anything, there's something specific you'd like to watch, leave it in a comment down below and we'll see if we can make it happen, because we only have like 8 subscribers, so we want to keep you 8 guys as happy as possible. So if you're committing, we'll appease you. All right, we're gonna head back and see you guys next week. So we were just on that side when we were at that old chimney, and we were right over there with those 3 bears, a mama and 3 cubs. Never even knew it. That's pretty magical. Can you imagine just like some person from the U.S. government coming to knock on your door and just tell you that within a week you have to be out of your house, and they'll either give you money right now or they'll just kick you out, and the house that you've grown up in and your like grandparents built and grew up in, they're just gonna burn it down? It's happened a lot. If you're in the way of eminent domain, you have no recourse against the mighty long arm of the federal government. You're in the way of a railroad, you're in the way of a highway, you're in the way of a dam. You're just in the way. And this area too, before it was flooded for a lake, this lake and some of the lakes over, they were valleys, and they were some of the stopping points for the Trail of Tears. When Old Hickory there under Jackson decided we'll kick all the Indians, Native Americans, and move them across the country. These towns? Not these towns exactly, but some of these filled up lake beds. They were valleys, and they were stopover points. You know, you kind of collect as many people as you can and then move them across the country. Some of these lakes were used for that. And then that's why this area has the name Solly. You see Solly on the map and on the trail system. But Solly was a Cherokee chief, and he gave himself up so that his tribe could flee into the mountains and that they could survive. He surrendered himself and his family
So that's why a lot of stuff is named after Solly. And if you guys would be interested in some more like Cherokee themed videos, you know, I like to tie supernatural and kind of ancient cultures and, you know, just more interesting things than happen in our day-to-day life. We love to do a video on maybe Judacola or the Moon-Eyed people or
Bigfoot.
Melungeon people from this area. So if there's anything anybody would be interested, one of our 3 subscribers would be interested in seeing, let us know. All right, we were hoping on our way back to have some bears around the boat just for the cool picture of it, or the cool scenery to see them out here by the lake, but no go. But we've seen plenty of bears today. Tons and tons of bear tracks. No fresh ones around the boat though. But we didn't leave any food in the boat. It was all in our backpack.
I was hoping. Would have been cool.